Hi, and welcome back to Life Changing Solutions with Angie Amico, your relationship architect. I'm super excited about this segment for so many reasons. One of them is, let me backtrack a little bit. I am a huge proponent that every leader needs their tribe, right? Their circle, their mentors, their coaches, and support outside of themselves. And I was, very fortunate to have met Beth Marshall, and she has been supporting me as a friend, but also as a mentor. And today she's here with us. So welcome, Beth.
Hi, Angie. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good, thanks. Super excited to have you here. I'm just going to let you jump in, because who better than you can explain what you do and how this all works?
Yes. So I guess I'll start a little bit with my story. I've got a unique background. The short version of the story goes a little something like CPA, accountant / business executive turns healer, transformational trainer, and psychic and medium. So you can tell right out of the gate that my story is not exactly one that we would consider normal, if you will, and it's unique and it's my own. So it's definitely been an exciting magic carpet ride, as I like to say. I guess it really started for me back in 2007, when I was really vividly aware that the corporate career that I had constructed for myself was just not working out. I think the phrase, I don't think I'm the first one who's coined it, the phrase of felt like a square peg in a round hole. I just added the part at the end that said I felt like a part of my soul was dying. And I just kept trying to conform. And it finally got to the point after 11 years that I really needed to do something. And there were some things in my personal life that sparked the choice to leave that decision, or leave that career behind, rather. And so I did that in 2008. I didn't leave the firm that I was with, but I jumped into HR for a while, a couple of years. But I can't even tell you in all honesty that within 6 months of jumping into that role, it was really just a sidestep, because that wasn't a great fit either. It was better. And it was really just a landing place for me to move myself forward. After that role got eliminated. So I found myself in 2010 exploring the world of entrepreneurship. I started working for someone's small business and doing personal growth and development. And eventually, at the end of 2011, found the courage to go off on my own. So outside of the spiritual journey that we're going to talk about here, and living a spirit-driven life, I also have another business called Financially Authentic. And I started that in 2012. And that's dedicated to helping people heal and transform their relationship with abundance, primarily money, but abundance spans beyond money. So that started in 2012. So I went on the journey of entrepreneurship, which for any entrepreneurs out there, you know how that just opens you up and pushes your buttons in more ways than you know how to count, quite frankly. And never really thought I would do that. For anybody who doesn't know, CPAs and accountants aren't really known as risk takers. So never had seen myself, never had grown up thinking that that was going to be a thing. So that was great. And then 2012 was a banner year, awesome year in my business, first year out. And then the layers started peeling back. I had a breast cancer scare at the end of 2012, which opened up a whole bunch of things for me in terms of surrendering and spirituality. Thankfully, it was not that, but I did have some health things to deal with. And that really opened the door to the rest of the snowball in 2013, becoming aware of psychic spiritual skills. In 2014, doing deep personal transformational work. In 2015, my 40th birthday surprise was having a reading that informed me that my psychic skills were much deeper than I realized, and that at some point I was to train to become a medium. That's what Spirit's instructions were. So you can imagine, happy birthday, 40th birthday. That was not exactly what I was looking for. So that sent me on a spiral of discovery as well. And as I denied that and chose to kind of sweep that under the rug because it was scary, because what financial person becomes a medium? That's just quote unquote weird, right? But I got to own that part of the journey, because as I denied it and I went to Bali on a spiritual trip in 2016, and For lack of a better explanation, my world kind of fell apart at that point. I really didn't know what was going on. I was denying what was coming through me. And when we deny those things, often we struggle. So that began a period of struggle. And it was only when I truly surrendered to what was coming up front and center that the last 3 years have become a bit more pleasant. So one could say 2012 through 2016 was a bit of a period of turmoil to really get me to a point where I have learned to love for myself and learn to use my own intuition and guidance and gifts to make my life much more effortless and make my decisions easier, learn how to listen, and move forward in life. And now I've dedicated my new business, my second business, A Spirit-Driven Life, to helping people do the same. So that's it in a nutshell. I could go into much more detail, but that's the short version.
No, and I appreciate that. And one of the things that it's like coming up for me, and not just right now, but also in conversations that you and I have had, when it comes to the world of coaching or transformation, I feel that some people like to put things in a, just pigeonhole them, right? Like, oh, coaching is meant for business and for finance, and really, there's so many different domains in a person's life that we could really explore, and they all intertwine, right? They all work together and need to come together. However, and that's actually one of the things that led me to you, was when it came to spirituality, and really, and not even spirituality, but just understanding, so much more that's beyond myself. And because as you and I know, I'm not a very wooey person, and so it was so hard for me to really no, I must take action, I must do. And so working with you has really expanded me to understand that what it is to surrender and not deem it as being weak, to be okay with things not looking a certain way and having that need to control. And I think in my previous segment, I was explaining how, it's because of this that even I was able to design the Spark Your Purpose, right, training that I have, because I feel that once you align with your purpose, right, that you are able to flow and just allow things to come and go without that attachment. And so for those of you, and like you said, it's like you went from a what's called financial world, which is very analytical, to now a very spirit-driven life, which sometimes can be like, you have this plan and spirit's like, no.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So how do you support, or what is your methodology, if you will, or if you could explain a little bit of how you work with people in what you do now?
Yeah, so I want to follow up on a few things that you said, actually. So when you talked about it, you weren't exactly that woo. I can absolutely relate to that. And my transitional point, and I still affectionately refer to it this way every once in a while, as I say, I'm practical woo. I'm a little bit of both. I can move left and be analytical, and I can move right and be highly spiritual. And depending upon what my clients need at any given point, or whether it's friends that I'm supporting, whoever it is, I'm moving on that continuum, right? So there's sometimes that I'm doing psychic and mediumship readings, and I'm really clearing all my knowledge out and just becoming a stream for spirit, right? So that's on one end of the spectrum. Whereas there's another time in my financial business, and I need to look at numbers, I'm probably, there'll always be some aspect of connection and intuition that goes into all of my work. I can't help it anymore. But I'm not going to be as connected or wooey in that way, if you will. So, and I definitely, I appreciated what you said, and we did do quite a bit around the beingness and the doing, right? Because there's that mentality that you have to do. And I was one of the best doers out there. I knew how to get her done. I still do. And what I really work with folks on is I just like to be efficient with my doing now. And what that really looks like is, how am I showing up? How am I being quiet? How am I being still enough to receive instructions and have that small voice inside of me speak and tell me where to move, tell me where to go, tell me what I'm supposed to say to somebody, and then actually go do it. So it's the beingness and the quiet that comes that inspires my action, if you will. So I take inspired action instead of just hammering the you-know-what out of whatever I was doing, which is the way that I did it, working 70 to 80 hours a week for so long. That really just nearly killed me, because that masculine drive had its cost for me, right? Like after so long, you just get burned out. And after 11 years, I just had it. I couldn't build a life that way, and I didn't want to do it. So really where I take that with my clients, to answer your question, is that I show up and reflect back to them. They tell me what's going on in their life, and I help them to understand and interpret the results that are showing up. And, the way that I teach is that things are not happening to people, things are happening for them. So as a fellow transformational trainer, which both you and I are, that's our connection point, teaching people to take responsibility for the things that they create in their life. So if something's showing up, I have a client the other day that I spoke to about their dating situation, and they had something showing up in that space. And so we talked about that. And instead of it happening to her, I helped her understand, like, why would that be useful for you? What did you learn from it? So on and so forth. So I really combine a wide range of transformational and spiritual tools. It's a both and. So it's not just, I used to have a former business coach, and she had this great saying. She goes, you can't just sit on your couch and and eat bonbons all the time. Like, that's not going to get you anywhere. And her name was Fabienne. She's fantastic. But that was one of my favorite sayings, is you can't just and eat bonbons and expect things to happen, right? Like, you can meditate, you can ask for answers, you can ask for guidance. And when the answer comes, you actually get to do things. So that's the way that I work with my clients. Is more often than not, the clients that come to me have a thread of intuition. They have a sense that there's something going on there, but they've been suppressing it the same way that I did for so long. When things started popping up for me in 2013 and awareness that I had psychic skills, all of a sudden I realized that they really had been present most of my life. I just thought I knew a lot of things from working a lot of hours, but it was really things that I didn't have a business knowing from any of my tactical work, if you will. So.
And one of the things that I really like and appreciate about the way you work is, of course, you're very open about, like, now you have, the psychic and medium ability, but at least when you and I were working, it was present, but it wasn't overpowering. And you also supported me in even understanding, because it's something that I would say anyway, so back to me being the doer, but I also feel that there's a sense of harmony between, and it's just this little balance, right? Between, or a dance actually is what I call it, right, between the doing and the being, and you can go back and forth. And I would get so upset because there are some of those very extreme woo people, that for me, I'm like, it can be borderline damaging, because if you're teaching everybody to sit on their couch and and then when they open their eyes and they're like, where's the house I envisioned, right. And it can actually create some, depression and other things. And as you know, as a former therapist, it's like, that's a big thing, mental health. And so I also am big about, when it comes to seeking out a coach, a mentor, whatever title we give ourselves these days, that as a person seeking somebody else out, that you also have that interview, right? And see if you're a good match and a good fit. And hopefully, whomever you do contact has that professional ethic to be able to say, like, we're not a good fit, and be able to, like, maybe send them to and refer them to someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've done that before. I can probably count on both of my hands the number of clients in both businesses that I don't want to say turned away, but just made a decision that, like, look, we're just not a good fit. And that can be for a variety of reasons. So I absolutely agree with you on that, and being clear and upfront. And the word integrity has multiple meanings for me, but being in integrity with, this isn't a good fit, this isn't the right time for this particular person, however you want to see it. But yeah, for sure.
And so one of the other reasons why I have you on the show today is because we want to announce the fact that you're going to be co-hosting with me moving forward, at least one segment per month. And really, you're going to be taking the driver's seat on that one. I'm just going to be here and support you. And that segment is going to be named Leading a Spirit-Driven Life.
Right.
And can you tell us a little bit about that and what you have in mind?
Yeah, and I think, since it's new, I think you and I are definitely going to play with that, and we'll co-host it, and I'll drive, and I'm really excited to to play with, while I may have just kind of publicly announced my business by starting a Facebook page earlier in the week, it's really been under wraps for the last year. I've been working with clients and kind of seeing what comes out of it. But for me, I really envision that segment as a possibility of many different things. First of all, with you and I talking, anything's possible. Anything can come up. But really being a mix of transformational and spiritual topics, kind of that balanced practical woo that we were talking about earlier, right? So we can bounce anywhere from a transformational distinction conversation as a trainer in that space to, what does it look like to build a spiritual partnership with the divine, whether that's God, spirit, universe, whatever word people choose. So what does that look like? It can be something that came up with a particular client. Obviously, I won't name the client. I won't get into too specific circumstances, but, something that came up with a client that week, topics that I support my clients with, whether that's the getting clear about something's happening for you and not to you. So the context or responsibility, that can be everything about divine masculine and divine feminine partnerships and energies. Executing efficiently, really what it looks like, what we were just talking about, the being and the doing. How do we mix both? How do I know when it's right to follow the thread and follow the voice and take that action? So, and I would also say that, my key values are first and foremost peace. That is my number one value. So anything that surrounds the topic of creating peace in your life, and then also abundance, freedom, clarity, and partnership are my other values that are dear to my heart. So I really say anything goes. I'm open for anything in terms of, those are just some suggestions. It might be about routines and habits that would have you live a spirit-driven life, or what does that look like? So a wide range of topics are possible.
And that's one of the things that really excites me, is the fact that how broadly ranged this whole topic of spirituality is. And it's not just about the meditation or some of the, I think you're also going to be just blowing away some of the stigmas and some of the stereotypes out there when it comes around spirituality. It's really honing in. And as you mentioned, it doesn't have to be God or universe. It's whatever you call it, your intuition, your vibe, whatever. It's like we all have that little voice. I often call mine the angry elf. It's like, it's like my angry elf is out and playing. It's like, spidey senses, whatever it is. It's like you get to have fun with that and really, not take it so serious, but able to grow within that and whatever it is that you need. So, and again, that's one of the things that I love about you, is how easy you facilitate it, to where it's just, I can make that my own, and yet you mirror me, right, as we're speaking, and we're mirroring each other, but I'm still co-creating for myself while you're co-creating, and that whole dynamic is so incredible. And I hope to really be able to have our listeners tap into that and be able to start doing that for themselves.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point. I didn't mention that, but I really do operate from a context of co-creation, right? I don't have any of my clients' answers, but what I'm particularly good at is asking really amazing questions that either, like you said, reflect back, or have them deep in thought about, oh, I never thought about it that way, or I like how you said that. So it really is about co-creation. And often when I'm coaching, sometimes it's coming from knowledge and experience in my own life, but a lot of the times I just kind of get prompted spiritually to ask a certain question, and I just trust at this point. I'll get prompted to ask a certain question and kind of say to myself, well, that's a little off the wall or crazy. And you've been in those experiences with me, right? So where it's just like, where did that question come from? But it leads somewhere, right? So yeah, definitely co-creation. And, everybody has their own best answers. And then the other point you brought up that I hadn't thought about is learning how to distinguish between the voice of the ego. When you said angry elf, I know that's your affectionate name for your spiritual voice, but someone could also take that for angry elf, the voice of the ego. How do I tell that it's my ego voice versus my spirit-driven voice?
No, and actually it's for the ego. Yeah. That's where, so I can make that distinction. I'm like, oh, that's ego, so that's my angry elf. Right. Sorry, I was interrupting. Go ahead.
No, all set. I was just clarifying on a few things, but yeah, absolutely, I agree.
And so some of the things that we're going to ask our audience is to please leave some comments, some suggestions. If there's anything around this topic that you would like to know about or, learn more about, You can always, contact me, Angie Amico, or Beth. How do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a Facebook page. You can find me at A Spirit Driven Life. All the contact information is on there, but for email, it's aspiritdrivenlife@gmail.com. The website's in process, so at some point that'll get up there too. But my phone number is listed on the Facebook page, so you can easily go there. But again, just A Spirit Driven Life on Facebook. You'll find me easily enough, and aspiritdrivenlife@gmail.com.
Well, thank you again, Beth, for being here, and I look forward to many more segments to come.
Excellent. Thanks, Angie. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Bye.